Hello, this is Ain-san. In this video, I will go over software setup for Black Hawk Scouting. I'm currently on Windows 11, but this process should be the same for Windows 10, as well as macOS and Linux. So if you're on any of those platforms, you can follow along as well. To start off, go to the GitHub page for Black Hawk Scouting. I will provide the link in the description of this video. Make sure you are signed into your GitHub account, and in the top right corner, click Fork. This will create your own copy of the app. Here you can select where the fork goes to, either your personal account or if your team has an organization on GitHub, it will appear in this list as well. I will select my personal account. Make sure copy the main branch only is checked, and then click create fork. Once your fork has been created, you need to add your API key for the Blue Alliance. If you don't have one, you can sign up for one at thebluealliance.com. Go to Settings, Secrets, Actions, and then New Repository Secret. For the name, put TBA Key in all caps and an underscore separating the words. In the value box, paste your API key and then click Add Secret. Once that has been set, you will need to configure GitHub Pages, which is what will allow you to deploy and run your app. Go to Pages, and then under Build and Deployment, select GitHub Actions as the source. Finally, you will need to run the deploy, which will make your site live. Go to Actions, and then if you see this message, click I understand my workflows, go ahead and enable them. Under Workflows here, click Deploy, and then Run Workflow. This may take a minute. Once it appears, you can click it to watch its progress. Once you see a green checkmark up here, it means the deploy has completed and your app is now live. You can go to Settings and then Pages, and it should show you a URL here. This is the URL you will use to access your own copy of the app. You can write it down or bookmark it to keep track of it. Even though your site is online and at GitHub, it's still a good idea to save it locally. This will allow you to make changes and test them on your own computer. So to set up the local environment, we will need to install 3 programs. The first is VS Code or Visual Studio Code. So you can search for VS Code, and it should be the first result that comes up. You can either use this download button on the home page, or go up here, click download, and select your platform here. I will use the button on the home page. Once the installer has downloaded, you can open it. Accept the license agreement. Select the installation location. And then you can click these two, and this will allow you to open VS Code from your file explorer. Click Next. And then this will install VS Code for you. You can uncheck Launch Visual Studio Code, as we won't need it until later. The second program we will install is Git. Git is used for tracking file changes and then pushing those changes to GitHub. On the home page of Git, you can click Download here. And then select the application you want. And then open the installer. This installer will provide a series of settings for you to configure. Most of them we can leave as default, but there is one that will need to be changed. For the default editor, select Visual Studio Code. And the rest of the settings can be set as their default. you can uncheck View Release Notes and then click Finish. Finally, the last program we will install is Node.js. This provides the environment to run the app. Once you get to the homepage for Node.js, there should be two download buttons here. If you're using Linux, you are likely using your system's package manager, so you can go to Downloads, and then click Installing Node.js via Package Manager, and then select your distro and follow the instructions there. Regardless of how you install Node.js, make sure you use the LTS or long-term support version. Now that all of the required programs have been installed, we need to do some final setup before running Black Hawk Scouting locally. Go ahead and open VS Code. As an optional step, you may want to install the editor config extension. This will set your VS Code settings to make the formatting of all of your files match, and this just makes editing more consistent. To do this, go to Extensions in the sidebar here, and search for Editor Config. It should be the first result, and you can install it. So once it has finished installing, you can close the tab. So now VS Code Setup is complete. Next, we need to set up Git. When we push to GitHub later, we need to let Git know our name and email. Currently, VS Code does not provide any built-in way to configure Git, so we will need to use a terminal. Go to Terminal and then New Terminal, and in the window that pops up at the bottom of the screen, type git config --global user.name, and then in double quotes type your name and hit enter. Now we will set our email. Typically, you can just use the email that you used when you created your GitHub account. So you can tap the up arrow key to get to this command again and replace name with email. And in the double quotes, type your email and hit enter. So now Git configuration is complete, and we can close the terminal. Now we need to clone the app from GitHub. This just means taking the app's source code and files from GitHub and downloading them onto our local computer. To do this, select Source Control in the sidebar, and then click Clone Repository. In the menu that appears, click Clone from GitHub, and in the sign-in box, click Allow, and then Open. And this will open a browser tab. Once you see this confirmation dialog, click Open Link, and back in VS Code, click Open. And you should see a list of the GitHub repositories that you have access to. So select your fork of Black Hawk Scouting. It will ask you for a location to save. I have on my computer a folder where I keep all of my GitHub projects. You don't need to have something exactly like this, but I do recommend having a safe spot to store your app where you can remember where it is. So once you've entered that folder, click Select Repository Location. Once it's done cloning, click Open. So now there's only a few more things we need to do before running Black Hawk Scouting. In Explorer up here, right-click, and make sure NPM Scripts is selected. And you should see a section at the bottom with the same name. Expand that, and you should see a list of the available scripts here. Next to Install Modules, click the Run button, and this will install all the modules that Black Hawk Scouting needs to run. Depending on the speed of your internet connection, this may take a while. Once that has completed, you can close the window at the bottom of the screen. And now we can add our Blue Alliance key to our local copy of the app. So to do this, right-click in any of the open space here, and select New File, and call the file .env.local. And in the file, type in all caps, Vite TBA API key, and then paste in your Blue Alliance key and save. So now we are ready to run the app locally. In the npm script section, run the dev script. And it should show you a URL. So you can click this while holding down the control key, and this will open the link in your browser. So now you can see I'm running my local copy of Black Hawk Scouting in my browser. And this concludes the setup process for Black Hawk Scouting. I hope you found this video useful.